Oh, my love, my love. We are
Yes.
here. I am so excited about our conversation today.
You are.
Yeah,
I am too.
I know you don't even know what it is.
I do.
Okay,
not.
but before we get into it, because I'm going to bring this up in our episode, so I want to explain the story of this process. Our son, who just got engaged,
Oh my word.
love
yes.
him,
Oh,
love my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. I can't believe
She's incredible.
You know, the craziest thing for me is I've never thought of myself as a mother-in-law. Like, have you ever thought of yourself as a father-in-law?
No, not till right now.
Yeah.
I just thought she's a daughter-in-law, and yeah,
she's
that's right.
great, but-
That makes me officially a father. Well, not yet,
yes.
but soon a
Yeah.
father-in-law.
Yeah, soon to be, which is
Oh,
but they're like sweet. What do we call? I was gonna say sweet little couple, but that's so demeaning. But
very much. Yeah,
yeah, sorry.
can't say that.
He's a grown man and she's a grown woman, but they are very tiny. He's tall, but they're like
yeah, they're both very skinny.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
We
they
need to
have
Get them some protein shakes or something.
I've tried. I've literally tried, like AG1. I'm like, hey Zai, just try some AG1 with a little protein in it. And like, you can do it.
Shout out to AG1.
Sponsors.
You
But they did all the research for the wedding, like found the most beautiful church, incredible reception venue, and then they came back to us and like, guys, would you care if we just do an immediate family wedding?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So
Yeah, so I feel like this is
here's where we are.
here's where we are, and it was our question to them was, will you guys regret not having a bigger wedding when you look back?
I regret having a bigger wedding when I look back. That's what I regret.
I regret. Okay, so we got married like late 90s. We thought that you had to invite the whole church. And by the way, you and I both came from churches that were largish. And so we didn't know how many people were going to show up at our wedding.
Yeah, I mean, I think our wedding got in the way of what was a church service, frankly. That's what it felt like.
I felt it was like
no offense to everyone involved.
No, I think looking back, it's like, oh, it was a reunion for all of our parents' friends to show up. Because our parents had known each other since the early 70s. And they're like, oh, these two kids are going to get married in 1999. And so let's all come and see. So we had food for 800 people. 1,500 people showed up. And on top of that, this is my biggest regret. We did a receiving line.
For
Thank
2 hours.
God, I don't think receiving lines are even cool or a thing anymore. But literally, for 2 hours, we stood there and had to greet all of our parents' friends.
And all I want to do was make out with you.
But you did keep grabbing my butt.
Yes, I did. I can't believe we're 25 years into marriage and we're still referencing me grabbing your butt in our receiving line. But it still makes us laugh.
You know what?
So
It's how we got through. It's how we survived the 2 hours of receiving line.
It is. That was about church.
Yeah. I actually never thought about it before like that in the context of, oh, this was a reunion for all of our parents' friends.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Anyway.
So many more thoughts there. Okay,
many more thoughts there we can dive into. So regret is an interesting, right? I had a tie-in. Did you like that?
I like that.
Is it subtle? Too subtle? Too much? How are you rated?
Very blatant, frankly, is how I'd call that. Yeah.
Little too strong on the
No,
tie-in?
I liked it. Very blatant.
I think regrets are really interesting in that they can be very helpful for making decisions. If we're not deciding something moral or something that's going to hurt people or whatever, to think through the process of, will I regret this later? Right? Like, I think that can be a really helpful decision maker.
Oh man, big time. It certainly helped me. And yeah, so I love it. So this episode is about regret.
Well, more specifically, the 5 most common regrets that people have on their deathbed.
Wow.
And this was written, by the way, by a hospice nurse who observed death. And, can you imagine? Shout out to hospice nurses and people who give hospice care. People
dear God.
who have given
Wonderful
their life
people.
To be with individuals as they pass from this earth.
Incredible.
That's a really, I think, special and unique calling that
I agree.
I don't have.
Man, I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to talk through her observations of the 5 most common regrets that she heard from
We've talked about this before
on her deathbed.
I thought not about doing this episode, but have you talked to me before about this?
I mean, we've had conversations about it, but I don't think this specific list from this context. And we talked about it a lot after your dad passed away, and what were the things that were meaningful and significant
what really matters
to him, and what really mattered. So,
Yep.
do you want to guess any of the regrets?
Um, Time away from family, like working too much.
Yeah. Balancing work and life. This was a regret. People saying, I wish I didn't
Yes.
work so hard.
Knew it.
That's number 3. So let's get into that one because I find that really fascinating. That
Okay.
at the end of someone's life, they'd say, wish I didn't work so hard.
Mm.
What do you think is the root the root process behind that? Why do because so many people say I can't wait to retire. I can't wait to get off work. I can't wait for the weekend. And that's kind of the sentiment.
Yeah.
Like I don't think people will say, favorite thing about my life is that I get to work. Although some people do love their jobs and I think that's a gift from God. But what do you think it is about at the end of your life saying, I just wish I didn't work so hard?
I mean, to me, it kind of comes down to this whole conversation of what actually adds value to your soul,
Mm.
right? So Jesus says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but in the process lose his own soul? So evidently there are things you can gain that add no value to your soul. They don't make the soul is more than this, but the simplest definition, which is probably insulting to people out there with deep research and study, but mind, will, and emotions, right? So in other words, there are some things that we can gain, garner, do, attract, earn in terms of resource and money through work that add no value to the soul. And I think by the time you're on, your last leg of life, you can't take any of the toys with you. You can't take any of the stuff with you. You can't take any of the things with you.
You can take your memories with you.
You can take your memories.
As you have preached and our friend sang about.
Yep.
That you can take your memories
You
with
totally can.
And you can buy memories to an
Yep.
extent.
Yep. But, memories with people that
Yeah.
will be there and care for you in the end, evidently seems to be the things that add value to your soul. To me, this conversation ends up becoming about what, if there are regrets at the end of your life, to me, those are the things that basically evaporated towards the end. And you're like, wait, I spent how much time on something that essentially evaporated? For instance, to me, like climbing the proverbial corporate ladder, or in any vertical, there's this ladder that you can climb and you can achieve and you can go higher. And I'm not saying that's inherently wrong at all. It's just that it seems that doesn't necessarily, now it can create revenue that can create memories with your family and loved
Right.
ones, but the trade-off of, for instance, time spent at work or time spent with your family, at the end of your life, time spent with your family seems to add far more value than time spent at work.
How crazy is this 2019 study by Harvard Business Review? Guess the average amount of work that 94% of working professionals spent working. Why do I make you guess everything?
Well, yeah, and I also just got lost. There was a lot of numbers in there. Say that again.
94% of professionals work 50 hours a week in the United States of America.
Okay.
When our average work week is considered
supposed to be
40 hours.
Right.
And you know what shocked me when I heard
I'm not guessing anymore.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
great.
I was like,
wait, what am I guessing?
Sorry,
I think you just told me.
why do I make you guess numbers?
I like it.
Because I like to be provocative, get everybody thinking, what would my
get
guess
the people going.
What would my guess be? 50 hours a week. And what I thought about this, it's so interesting the age we're at with our kids right now. Our time with them is so precious. And it's pretty much only evenings and a few weekend hours, because as they get older and they have their own life, they have games and practices after school every day. And then they have jobs and internships and things. And so our time with our teenagers, and especially as we have one getting married, one's a junior, the other's a freshman, it's like we are realizing how quickly that goes. And so I just think working that extra 10 hours, those are probably most likely either morning or evening or weekend hours that you're spending working instead of with your family, with friends, developing friendships. And I think a lot of the root of that is a false narrative that more money will make me happy or more status will make me more happy. And it's been, one of my favorite quotes of all times, I've probably saved it 57 times on In Good Faith, is Jim Carrey saying, I wish everybody could be rich and famous, that they would know it's not fulfilling to be rich and famous. Yet people regret not having a work-life balance. Okay, next.
It's
Oh, sorry. You want to say something else?
Well, if you want me to, but I mean, if you want to keep it moving, it is interesting how obligatory work it can take such an
Mm.
obligatory form, and suddenly I think, like, if someone's listening to this podcast, or if I'm even listening to what you're saying, and I can think of all the times, for me, my office is my cell phone, so it goes with me wherever I go, and I'm always on call, so to speak. But when the call comes in, or when the meeting is proposed, or when the connect is presented, there is this thing that tells you, like, hey, this is what you do. You need to do this. And then there's also, like, this feeling in culture that the responsible parent is like, hey, son, give me a few minutes here. I need to take this call. And
Mm.
that's almost portrayed as, like, diligent and consistent, and then you'll get flattery from coworkers and partners in business, and being like, man, you're always available, and you're always, following through. And then, you know, I think
Mm.
for me, growing up doing this, I thought the 5-year-old, the 8-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old really weren't that aware of what I was doing. And now that we're 19, 17, and 15, it has occurred to us in the clearest of terms that those 8, 5, 6, 7, 9 year olds were not only aware, they were absorbing and were developing. And I think we've had to work through mistakes that we've made when we thought our kids were completely unaware, when in fact they were aware. So I think ultimately you make this one point. Now we have more to do, but it's like, man, I wish we were a little more sober minded in this area. I think we get a little drunk on culture, a little drunk on success, a little drunk on monetary increase, and we think it's kind of obligatory. This is what you got to do. This is what successful people do, driven people do. We're on the grind, we're making it happen, we're doing this. And dropping kids off at school and picking them up for practice and having a combo at night over dinner is like, it's not very consequential. And yet it actually is. And being 45 now and looking at, developing young humans, young adults that are going out into the world, I definitely have some feelings today of, like, I don't think I did it all right in that trade-off space of, like, will I take this call or will I keep having this combo? And I think I took the call sometimes and didn't finish the combo with the kids.
But I think you hit on something so significant, which is your coworkers will say, "Man, you're so great at your
Oh,
work." Your boss, you will literally get a write-up review
yep.
from your boss of how well you're doing at work. You literally get a pay evaluation. You get feedback to say you're doing a good job.
You're nailing it.
You're nailing it. You know what you don't really hardly get at home with your family?
There it is.
Wow. Thanks for doing dinner tonight, Dad.
Yeah.
That was great. You're such an amazing father.
Yeah,
Thank you. Like,
you don't get a long text from your kids going, tonight really, really
yeah.
spoke to me, Dad.
You
Thank you
don't
for asking provocative questions and getting me to talk.
you don't
Yeah.
get an annual parenting review where your kids say like, "Wow, this
Gosh.
is like." So I think that's a
We
really
should start a company where we serve up to couples annual parenting reviews.
That'd be great. Like
Yeah.
kids have to write nice things about their parents. It's actually not a bad idea. Okay,
Annual parenting review. Annual parenting.
APR,
APR. Not a bad
annual
idea.
percentage rate.
Yep.
Next regret. This one I found this is the one that I did not expect to be on the list. And I
Okay.
probably found it the most fascinating, which was living authentically. People regret. This is the thought. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not to the life that others expected of me.
Whoa.
I find
Wow,
that
what a
interesting
thought.
because I think we think about authenticity in the sense of the here and now. Like it'll make your Tuesday better if you're authentic. It'll make your relationships better if you're authentic. But to be at the end of your life and to really have that inner regret, to think, I wish I would have been more myself.
Yeah.
I find that just really fascinating. Here's my thought around this. I truly think one of the greatest avenues and aspects of worship that you and I can give to our Creator is to live authentically to the way He created uniquely each and every one of us to be.
I totally agree. I think that one regret points so clearly to me to the way of Jesus and the invitation of Jesus to all of humanity to, walk with him, work with him, watch how he does it. I think one of the things I love about following the way of Jesus, and not just the way, but the person of Jesus, is that there is shame and guilt are not relevant, which I think are huge drivers in the characterization, becoming a caricature of yourself, becoming this kind of cartoon version of yourself because of shame and guilt. We're like, well, I can't share that. I can't show that. I can't reveal that. So now I'm going to become kind of a public version, and there's going to be this private version, then there's going to be this personal version.
Yep.
And we have all these versions of ourselves, which ultimately is exhausting. And I can see how that can become a major regret. What I love about Jesus is how his teachings lead us to full integration. And the cool thing about integration is that suddenly you don't have to remember who you are with who you're around.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that becomes exhausting? Okay, what do people expect from me in this setting? And then what am I expected to be in this setting? You can just be you. And ultimately, I will say this, there's been some bumps in the road for me as a preacher, integrating my life a little more to not be just a public platform preacher, but to bring my full self even to that venue and that expression of my life. I've gotten criticism. I've gotten critiqued. I think people probably in some cases think, wow, he's definitely not as spiritual as I thought. But I think as you follow Jesus and keep following Jesus, he welcomes you into this safe and secure place of being fully yourself. I don't think being fully yourself means you keep it crude and rude and crass.
Mm-hmm.
I think there can be decorum as well.
When there's parts of being fully ourselves that is being strong when we need to be strong, being truthful when we need to be truth, and speaking the truth in love.
Speaking the truth in love, yeah.
Being just true to our makeup and our strengths and weaknesses and who God designed us uniquely to be. You said you think that shame and guilt are a part of that. I'm going to add one other thing. I think shame and guilt and comparison
big time
definitely drive us to not be our authentic selves.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, you and I've talked about this in our years when we were working too hard, frankly, to be honest, and we were dragging.
And we were applauded by many for that,
right? We were dragging 3 kids back and forth between Seattle and LA. We fly down to LA on Wednesday and fly up to Seattle.
11 sermons a week, yeah,
on Friday or Saturday, and do that, and all the things that we did around that. I thought I had to do everything you did. You're much more social. You have way more energy. And what I did to my body, honestly, comparing myself to you, and it wasn't even a Instagram comparison. It was I think this is a standard for what this season of life is supposed to look like. I love Judah. I think he's the best, and I think he's doing all these great things at it. So I'm not going to live authentically even to my need for sleep. Like it's a pretty significant comparison. And I think that's a regret I'll have for going back on that season of life.
Yeah, but to your credit, I think that slope is lathered in soap. I think it's so slippery. I think it's so easy. I think it's so normal. I think it's so natural. Here you are. We are each other's person. We love each other. But I mean, I do the same thing. We compare ourselves to each other and feel like, man, I need to become more like, that person. In our experience in helping couples, like, it is so ironic that oftentimes one of the great hurdles for couples is that they think they're supposed to be the same. That if this is going to work, we have to be the same. And I think when it came to 11 sermons a week that we did for 5 years or something straight, I think you were like, well, I have to be able to go at the energy level that Judah goes, and I have to be able to be in all these rooms and greet all these people
and then do all these dinners,
and hang late. And this is just what I have to do because we have to do it together. And it really has cost you physically. It's now become a huge revelation, so to speak, in our marriage, and has set us free in a lot of ways. Not to say that a bunch of people aren't thrilled that we're still not doing those 11 sermons in all those locations. That still is something that we have to let go of and trust God that, we are following him and honoring each other in our own physical limitations.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and wanting to be more intentional with living authentically. Like, to me, that's just such a great life goal, that whatever age you're at, if you're 50 or 60 or 20, just asking yourselves the question, how can I live more authentically?
Well, and I just lastly, I just want to say, like, the challenge becomes like to me, life fuels your work expression. Does that make sense? Like, in the case of what I do, I think it's more art probably than science, but it's like my art is supposed to be fueled. So the art of telling the story of Jesus is supposed to be fueled for my life. But quickly, because of our lack of time management or my lack of time management, my art became my life. So it was no longer an expression of the life I was living. It was the only thing I was doing.
And it can be really hard to live authentically in the middle of that.
Well, because I'm just constantly going from one speaking thing to the next. So then where do you live? Where do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And you become a professional.
Where do you even grow and connect with Jesus and discover who you are in this next season?
I became a professional preacher and didn't know my neighbors and didn't have enough time with you, didn't have enough time with my kids, but because I was constantly thinking of the next talk I was about to give and the next thing I was going to have to be at. And that to me is not a fully rounded, integrated life. And that's something we had to take to God and ask him what to do.
Yeah.
Anyways, I didn't want to end with regret in that one.
Which kind of leads to the next regret. Okay. This is probably the one that hit home the most for me.
Whoa.
It is the regret of expressing feelings. By the way, at the end, I'm going to ask you which one hit home for you the most once you read all 5. Expressing feelings. The regret is I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings more. And this is where it hit home for me because I know this to be true, but it's not always easy in practice. Life happens. We end up with hard things, difficult things. Yep. And so we try to numb the pain. And in numbing the pain, we numb the joy and we numb the happiness. It is impossible for us to only numb one aspect of emotions without numbing all of them.
Profound.
And I think a lot of our daily life activities in this fallen, broken, hurting world is an attempt to numb a lot of feelings. But as a result, we end up numb and we don't express the feelings that we're supposed to express.
And I think, honestly, this has been a huge approach for you lately in terms of trying to be more honest and candid and respectful of what you're actually feeling in the moment. And you've been sharing them more with
me. I know.
Me.
I was so proud of us the other day. Something happened and you said a snippy comment. You walked. We were like on our way to something else, and you walked out. And I text you back, and I know I don't even know if you remember this.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
It wasn't a big it took courage for me to text you back and say, the way you responded to that really hurt my feelings.
I loved it.
And you responded so great, by the way.
Well, because I was thrilled. I definitely will not have the regret of not sharing my feelings. That will not be my regret. And it won't be yours either now because you're changing. You're starting to share your feelings.
And you know what? It is good for our mental health to express our feelings.
I love it. I want to know more of your feelings.
Yeah. We were playing in a conversation at this long dinner the other night. It was great. And we ended up, they sat us, it was assigned seating. We ended up not sitting by each other. So I ended up sitting next to a couple other people. And we got in conversations, if you weren't named what you were named, what would you name me? Or what would your name be? And the person gave me the name. I like the name, but I've been thinking about it. It's like, I would name you Vale. He was like, I'd name you Vale. And I thought, oh, darn it. That means I'm not expressing my feelings good. Vale. Something covering.
Boy, that says a lot. All right. Well, let's keep it moving here.
I was like, shoot. I am thinking I'm doing better. And I just get like this person I just met over the weekend. Like, yeah, I'll give you the name Vale. I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yep.
I thought I was doing better. Okay, moving on.
Keeps her cards close to her chest.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on it. Other regret. Maintaining friendships. And here's a specific regret. I wish I would have stayed in touch with my friends. I'm really curious. Obviously, there's an age demographic that this represents. People who lived before the connectivity of the internet and what that provides. But I'm really curious if that will maintain as people have stayed in contact with friends or social media.
I have a strong feeling about this one.
Or how that will play out in our generation and our kids' generation if that regret will hold. What do you think?
I think the daily Christmas card and the daily newsletter that we get about every friend we've ever had around the world is not helping. And I actually think it's keeping us from connecting because we're seeing each other online going, wow, must be nice. Jeez. I have, let's see, last week I had an old high school basketball buddy reach out. I had a buddy, one of my best friends that we grew up on the same block in Portland, Oregon. One guy was from high school. The other guy I've known since I was 5 years old. And both of them reached out in reference to what was posted on my Instagram page to connect with me. They saw me somewhere in the world doing something and wanted to connect. And frankly, both connections felt a little bit like, is this just because I was doing something cool and they wanted to connect? And it just, I'm not saying, by the way, I was thrilled to hear from them.
Yeah, I know. I think your perspective's a little jaded because that's not most people's experience.
Totally disagree.
Okay. Because
it's all relative. It doesn't matter. Like, I think you think like, first of all, we don't spend a life on like yachts and cruise ships. So it's not like, I mean, I think I was just golfing in somewhere, or whatever. Like, but no, I totally disagree. I think people struggle with keeping friendships because of comparison.
Because I have reconnected with a friend we were friends. We were probably 4 years old. I was at my parents' house looking through old photographs, and like there's literally pictures of me and this girl since we were like 3-4 years old, all the way through our high school graduation photo. But then we lost contact. Why are you laughing at that?
I don't know where this is going.
Because I'm getting somewhere.
All right.
So anyway, we've reconnected.
Okay.
In the last couple of years after not seeing each other for 20 years. And it was significant how meaningful it was in our reconnection.
Oh, I so agree.
Because we had that memory together, and my parents, and my sister, and all the church contact we were in, and Mr. whatever, and like the shared teachers, and
even our friend from Portland that we just hung out with.
Yeah. Oh, that was
so fun.
So there's shared experience, and frankly, it had nothing to do with social media.
Oh, absolutely. The regret was losing contact with friends.
Yeah.
My point was, I do think people are losing contact with friends because they look online and go, I can't live up to that, can't keep up with that, can't.
Okay, no. My point is that I lost contact with her for 20 years because there was no way to keep in touch other than what we're going to do, write letters to each other.
That's why you're 45. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think, and it's not, neither of us are going to be proven right or wrong here.
I think there's a way for me to be proven right.
I actually think that people are going to be able to better stay in touch with friends.
I hope so.
Because the ease.
I think so.
Because the ease of technology.
I think so. You have to overcome comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Last regret.
Okay.
Maintaining happiness.
Mm.
And here's a statement. I wish that I had let myself be happy. This fascinated me. I'm going to read it to you specifically. So there is a whole emphasis of positive psychology, which I didn't even know. I did a deep dive into it. So I was like, what's positive psychology? It started in 1998 when the head of the American Psychological Association was like, hey, we're only focusing on negative. Let's focusing on positive and flourishing and actually helping people live good lives, not just prevent them from living bad lives.
Wow.
Really fascinating.
Yeah.
It was fascinating to me anyway. I won't have to deep dive anyway. And he was just saying, hey, there is a choice where people just sometimes just need to choose to let themselves be happy. And people at the end of their life regretting, I just wish I didn't let myself be happier.
Yeah. I think I've been watching The Last Dance for the 5th or 6th time with Michael Jordan. Like, how many times am I going to reference it, But Michael said something there that his dad, it seemed to be the biggest takeaway from his late father. And that was take a negative and turn it into a positive. And I thought, that's kind of, and then you're like, wow, that's a lot of what I believe in life. But this one hits home the most for me to answer. Because I think naturally I have chosen happiness because of my personality. I typically wake up somewhat excited about the day for no particular reason, just because of my disposition. But I think as I've aged and gotten older and you make decisions, I don't regret the major decisions of our life. I don't. But then people will weigh in. I wanted to impact people. And then what comes with impact is impact of any scale and any kind is people will weigh in on things you're like, I don't know if I wanted you to weigh in on that. And now my heart hurts and I'm not as happy now because you don't like my shirt, whatever. And we actually had a dinner recently and we talked about, what's one thing you could change in your spouse, and more importantly, one thing you could change in yourself.
Yeah.
That was a good combo.
That was a great combo that you led. Like you were like,
Thank
hey,
you.
every day I want to ask a significant
Appreciate
question.
that.
It was phenomenal. It was very meaningful.
But what I said about myself was I need to essentially choose to be happier, that I'm really absorbing a lot, friendship breakdown, people that disagree, don't agree with our direction or course or whatever, or podcast or whatever it might be, and letting that go every day. And honestly, one of my favorite things to do, and what's really, really helping me, is not only counting your blessings, which is hilarious.
No, but it's true.
It really is true. But also empathizing with people who have critique of you, and recognizing that their critique in most cases isn't deviant, diabolical, or wishing you harm. For a lot of people, it's misunderstanding, or it's like, in their experience, this was necessary. And there are some things that people along the way will let go of on their journey that has become the most valuable thing on your journey. Yeah. So you're like, how could you let go of something that has been everything to me? You must be in error and you must be wrong. And so, in my bathtub every morning, trying to count my blessings, but also, asking God to give me a soft heart towards people who, in some cases just flat don't like you. Like, hey, you know what? I don't blame them. They have their own journey, and I have to trust God with that. But I want to fix.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I have seen you do that, and I have literally seen it make a difference in your daily happiness.
Thank you.
I've seen you do that. So
appreciate.
Sorry,
that.
I had to interrupt you.
That's good.
It's good.
Well, we're coming to a close anyways. Yeah.
You know what blows my mind when I think about this list in its entirety, not in the individual pieces, is how many of these things are actually just little daily decisions. Yep. None of them are, I regret not moving to this country. I regret not. It's so many of the way that we walk this out is simply in little daily decisions, little daily choices to be happy, little daily choice to express a feeling, daily choice to keep up with a friend, daily choice to, no, I'm going to leave work right now. I'm not going to respond to that email. I'm not going to look at that call. So well said. A daily choice to, what was the first one? I forgot. To live authentically. But I don't think any of these can be done in one big moment.
They can't.
I think all of these just have to be done in little daily choices.
Well said.
You agree?
Yep.
Which, okay, shameless plug for daily guided prayer.
Shameless.
That we do at Church Home. That it blows my mind that 5 to 7 minutes every morning, that little bit of a daily practice can actually lead to choosing all of these things.
I think it can minimize regret.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
In a really significant way, because so many of these we can't do yesterday or tomorrow. We can only do them today. Little things that we do at a time. Do you want to close in prayer?
Hope that helps everybody. Nah. Sure. Can you imagine? It's kidding. Oh, God.
I'm just closing my eyes and just waiting for you to
and
start
hoping
praying.
for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you. God, thank you. You're so big, so grand, so great, and so extraordinary. And you are guiding and leading and loving and protecting and propelling us forward on this path. In this limited space and time, you are here. And we thank you for that. And we love you and we trust you. Bless everyone listening today, right now, as they're hearing my voice praying this. In your name. Amen.